I don't know where to begin. Australia Day. Well, January 26 is nothing very special about it anyway. We claim that it's the day that the first fleet arrived and Australia was started as a colony of Britain, but in fact it wasn't. The 20th of January is the day that the first fleet arrived. They'd already been here 6 days before they decided that they'd drink the health of the King and salute all the officers and have a little bit of a shindig down in Sydney Cove. Is that something to really celebrate? It doesn't really matter much, does it? We're looking for a day in which we commemorate or remember the beginnings of the country from a white perspective and almost the end of the country from an Aboriginal perspective. It's a really important schism there, which we have to address at some stage. The whole of Australia is a country that is in fact established on a series of lies. We're not very good at telling truth in our historical framework. Australia Day is a good example of it. It's the wrong day, for starters. Okay, well we need to rethink a new one. There's a big question of terra nullius. It took us nearly 200 years to prove that that wasn't in fact true, that it was a lie. And the latest one that's just come out in the history reviews is the question of taking possession of the country by Captain Cook on Possession Island. He never did. So we're living in a land which has been claimed by Britain, but they never actually planted the flag in the ground and said this is ours. And you can go on and on and on, and the lies continue, and politicians are really good at perpetrating them. And without getting too detailed, sometimes they're not quite lies, they're just promises that are never quite kept. Bob Hawke was going to have a treaty in the life of his government. Didn't even get to first base. John Howard came along and things went really bad for that period of his governorship, and the worst case of it was the intervention in the Northern Territory, which he had to eliminate the Racial Discrimination Act to actually put into place and undertake. And we just lay back and took it. There were people upset about it and worried about it, etc. But we thought, oh, it's such a terrible thing. All those sexual predators in Aboriginal communities in the Northern Territory, maybe he's got the right thing. We'll send the army in and clean it all up. Well, they sent the army in and they did all sorts of other silly damn things, but they never found the nests of sexual predators, etc. And lies once again, and it goes on and on and on, and we continue to do it, either incidentally because we can't keep a promise, as Bob Hawke's case was, deliberately in Howard's case, and the latest example of our misunderstanding of Australian history that comes to my mind is Scott Morrison of a few years ago. He was going to send the young Endeavour, the new Endeavour, whatever the damn ship's called, around Australia in a reenactment of Captain Cook's voyage. Wacko Butte. Even the Prime Minister didn't understand his own history. It's sad. So we need an Australia Day, call it what you like, I don't care, but Australia Day symbolically, and it needs to do two things. It needs to look at where we've been and what we've done, and commemorate and remember and pat ourselves on the back for our achievements. So those are considerable, but it also needs to review where we have been and what we haven't done and what we need to address. And that's the bit we really miss out on at the present day. As for changing the date, yes, I'm all for it. I think that this suggestion of the first Monday bit is appropriate. That should work. It'll take some of the heat out of the argument, and if we can get enough people behind it to get it up and going, we've got a chance to make that change. But that's the easy change. That's only one thing we can do in terms of redressing the Australian position today. There's a hell of a lot of other issues, mostly to do with Aboriginal Australians, which we absolutely have to come to terms with. And at the end of the day, we've still got to deal with a treaty. We've absolutely still got to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you.